Hello, it's Scott Manley here with part 14 of Galileo Conquest. Yes, I know we've been off the air once again for 20 days, but yeah, we're gonna make this happen. Seriously, we are in the process of resupplying the Clonrichtert station, the science station, not the Space Hotel. Space Hotel is currently languishing in orbit, but Valentina and Natati are basically heading up there. So we're performing a very careful rendezvous in this vehicle. Now the main reason for this mission is of course to deliver the return vehicle for Bob and Bill, who've been hanging around up there, you know, doing their stuff. Presumably science, I mean, not their other personal stuff. Because we're paying them, right? I mean, they don't get any free time while they're in space. They're employed, right? No? I mean, I want my money's worth. And by money's worth, I mean science. I don't mean some other sort of Bill and Bob type comedy. Because I know Bill and Bob on the space station could make an interesting sitcom, but I doubt it. I don't think Bill and Bob really have the kind of background in comedy that we would require for an orbital sitcom. Anyway, I mean, it's not just the return vehicle, we also have a bit more habitation space. One of the fundamental things with this, the colonization mod, is that you really need to give them lots of accommodation space, because otherwise they get kind of homesick, they get sad, basically, that they don't have a lot of room to move around, and that makes them just quit working, which could be very bad if they were, say, about to perform a re-entry. Anyway, quickly after orbital insertion, we're able to make the relevant or the required changes. Look at that, getting my approach distance down to about 0.5 kilometers after a 0.17 meters per second. That's 2 feet per second. That's, you know, pretty awesome, or pretty small, I mean. So yeah, we're coming into approach. We're going to make one little rendezvous burn. And then once we get really close, we can discard the main stage here, the main engine, which is a poodle engine. But between that and the main spacecraft, there is a docking port which will attach on and basically bring the spacecraft together. So to get rid of the stage, what we have to do is perform a very careful spin-up maneuver here. So we're going to turn off that engine. Then we're going to spin the engine up, right? And so what we have on this second stage is a couple of ant engines facing backwards. Once it's spun up, we slow it down, and off it goes. Of course, I should have really thought about this before launching into space. I could have just angled those two engines in a kind of screw formation so that it would have spun up automatically. But I guess I wasn't that forward thinking. It doesn't quite stay as spin stabilized as I'd like, but it does a good enough job here. It's just burning down the fuel that it has, and yeah, actually it has way more fuel than we would ever need for this, to be honest. Look, the fuel is going down, and at some point I'm just like, you know what, I think this is re-entering the atmosphere. I'm not going to sit and watch this forever, so switch back. And now we got to perform the docking. So we target the ports, we line ourselves up, moving towards the target using RCS. Now, for docking mod, you might have seen this in previous episodes. After we target the port, we now get an extra indicator on the nav ball. So previously I've had dedicated docking UIs, but I've always preferred this idea to have an item on the nav ball to indicate the orientation of the ports. This is makes a lot more sense, and I kind of wish they would have it in the core game as well. You'll notice that the thing also displays the orientation of the port as well, so if I rotate, I will line up correctly based upon my the port orientation. Someone was actually asking me, like offline, how do you get really accurate port rotation after docking? And the way you do it is actually you have more than one docking port, and you basically line them up and make sure they dock simultaneously. And if they don't both dock, Then you undock and you try again, and eventually, and usually you can do it first time, but if you have a bit of trouble, it might take a couple of attempts, and as soon as you have 2 or 3 or more, you know you've got your orientation on lockdown perfectly. So you can use this for things like aircraft, where the aerodynamics, if the parts are slightly offset, that can really mess up your flight characteristics. But if you use multiple docking ports, you can actually assemble aircraft in space, and that's quite good. But anyway, bring this thing in, dock it gently, and now we have an upgraded version of the Holy Stone of Clonrichtert, right? Which is a reference which you will only get if you know about Father Ted. We get some goo and whatever here. Forget that. No, we're gonna start sending Bill and Bob home, and we can just do this by transferring them into this command pod here. This is, of course, a massive upgrade from the old days where you'd have to manually EVA them across the surface of the spacecraft and try not to have them fall off and float into space, because that would be a really embarrassing way to have an astronaut lost in space. We're transferring the science as well, and now it's time to disconnect this. So this stage here is very, very simple, and the only problem is, because neither Bob nor Bill have any flight experience, I don't have any stabilization at all. So yeah, no operational SAS modules and no pilots aboard. Cannot engage SAS. So yeah, just hope that they can hold themselves in the correct Oh, wait a second. Are we illuminating the entire planet there? I suspect we have a bug in the game engine once again. Well, never mind. Let's start heading home. Let's try and put the spacecraft somewhere near the launch site. Once again, because of course landing near the launch site is good. So I'm just going to perform this burn. Rather like a real spacecraft, these tiny engines don't provide much thrust. If you look at the Soyuz, it actually takes quite a long time to perform its deorbit burn. And there is a backup engine, incidentally, on the Soyuz. I didn't realize this until I read about a particular case where they had to use the backup engines. The main engines failed, and so they had to use the backups, which ended up burning too long, and they ended up re-entering far too steeply, and therefore experiencing really high Gs. I think it was the first pilot from Bulgaria who was going to be a national hero and go to their space station, but that didn't quite work out. Anyway, Bob and Bill have ditched that stage, and now they're trying to hold the attitude manually as they get a glimpse of the rest of the spacecraft flying by, and thankfully not smashing into their super sensitive heat shield. There it goes. We're starting to get re-entry. Oh, wow, we get an explosion at 51 kilometers up. That's pretty crazy. You know what? I think we must make these solar panels out of something other than silicon dioxide. I'm sure it's maybe, I don't know, something explosive. Is there anything? You can make you can make silanes. I think silanes are like alkanes. They're basically, instead of a chain of carbon atoms, you have a chain of silicon, and you can attach hydrogens to the side. But I remember that they're just very unstable, and pretty much on contact with air, they just explode. That is something that I'm bringing back from when I was a teenager and saw them in class, and I've not actually done any research. Anyway, we finally got back, and we have a chance for Bob to collect some new data. Chemical analysis of the soil shows that it's all sorts of cool stuff. More science is what it contains. Yeah, sci-fi likes to talk about things like silicon-based life, and yes, you can build, carbon-style chemistry with silicon, but it's different. And one thing to consider on Earth, we metabolize carbon-based food and we exhale carbon dioxide. I'm not sure how you would exhale silicon dioxide. I guess instead of breathing out, you would poop out sand. I'm no biochemist, never mind a silicon biology biochemist, but I would suspect that if it were possible, life would find a way. And I have found a way to get 433 science, which I think should push me over the edge and give me access to the next step in my science exploration thingy stuff. Wow, we have a plethora of choices, so many. We've already gone nuclear. Do we want a nuclear reactor? These need some sort of cooling, and I have no idea if I have anything that needs that amount of power. Giant fuel tanks. I think we're doing fine with launch masses right now. Bits for things, more crew tubes. Crew tube, is that a technical term? We have the crew tube, and we have the pointy crew tube at the front of the aircraft. Actuators, forklift, no. Flight, no thank you. Heavy landing, probably not. Field site, lots of wheels here, and a science crate. A science crate could be useful. New pods, octo-aperture modules. Surface scanning, that might be a good one to get because it has a bunch of different science type experiments, and we all know that more science, it's best to unlock the science as much as possible. That's got new antenna, giant solar arrays, or we can't go there, so we're going to need to start thinking about upgrading the thing, but I'm going with the scanning tech. And now the next step is Imelda 2. And to be honest, Imelda 2 is basically exactly the same as Imelda 1. It is now going to go to Ceti. So that's the other planet that we have, or the other moon. It's identical. The only thing that's different is we have a new pilot. Dewsbury Kerman. I looked, and since Jebediah was dead and Valentina was currently hanging out in space, getting her space legs or whatever, we needed a new pilot, and since it wasn't an experimental spacecraft, Dewsbury was totally qualified. He has no experience, this is his first flight, and he will take it all the way out to the most distant moon in the Gale system. And no doubt he will unlock secrets. We've picked up some new contracts for this. We are going to perform a rendezvous with... we have to perform a rendezvous in orbit. There is a spacecraft already up there, a satellite, so we'll rendezvous with that. We need to, return data and science and things like that. That's pretty much going to be some free money, but most importantly, we need to plant a flag on the surface. Once again, almost perfect fuel levels on that first stage there. The periapse is 11 kilometers, so that'll just return, and this thing will actually finally get us into orbit, where Dewsbury can finally appreciate everything that he is trained for. He can see the world from on high, see the horizon curve and the sky turn to black as he orbits silently, waiting for his window, as in his launch window, so that, or his burn window, his transfer burn window, that will take him out beyond, to the very edge of the sphere of influence of the Gale planet system, I guess. Take him out there. This mission will really be a demonstration that, space travel is something which is possible for everyone. It'll be mundane. You could take someone that's never flown before and send them all the way to the moon. And it might surprise you, but this happened. Many of the astronauts that flew on Apollo, their first mission would be on Apollo to the moon. On Apollo 8, the first mission to fly around the moon, Bill Anders was the third crew member. He had no prior spaceflight experience, and he was in the third seat, which would have been the lunar module pilot, except for the fact that they didn't have a lunar module for Apollo 8. Bill Anders is, of course, the guy that took the famous Earthrise photo. So, that was his one and only mission, and that was one hell of a memento to bring back. And of course, another famous astronaut whose one and only mission was to the moon was Harrison Schmitt. He was on the final Apollo 17 mission. He was a geologist, and he originally wasn't even going to fly because the program got cut short, but it was going to be, it would be such a shame that they didn't actually fly a scientist, so they displaced Joe Engle, of course, legendary Joe Engle, the only person to have flown a space shuttle entirely through re-entry manually. He was replaced by Harrison Schmitt, and we got a real geologist on the moon, and he picked out apparently one of the most interesting pieces of rock from the moon ever. Of course, given that he is a geologist, I'm going to trust if he says that it's interesting or not, because I certainly am barely qualified. Okay, so far the mission has been pretty simple. We've just performed a transfer. Now, we need to get the spacecraft into orbit to rendezvous, because that is one of the extra mission requirements we've got. This is not totally trivial. What I'm going to do is try to make these things, first of all, get these things lined up in the same plane, and I keep checking my life support as well, which is kind of important. We're going to have to rush the return, I think. Now, after getting the planes approximately aligned, it's time to actually dip into the sphere of influence of SETI. First up, what do you see, Dudebury? Anything new? Captain's log, we have entered naked eye range of the moon. It's pinkish brown and rippled and looks like a partially digested end log. No, looks partially digested end log. This is not the I thought when he was talking about partially digested, it was a reference to another kind of captain's log. Okay, so an EVA report. Out you get there. What are you gonna see out here? In space, no one can hear you puke. Don't worry, I hear it's pretty common. Everybody gets space sick the first time they're in 0G. It's pretty common. So now, rolling towards our capture burn. But as we get in close, we're going to get some more chances for crew reports. So let's get them. You record the crew's assessment of the situation. Boring. Okay, let's EVA and collect data from the poles. You find it really hard to tell whether that brown stuff is good to eat or recycle. You do not want to confuse those. Okay, back to the time accelerification. The temporal accelerator thingy. EVA. Fond memories this view will not make. But you're the only one that has seen this. That is your one, claim to fame at this point. Congratulations on making it here. Someone somewhere is cracking a stale Highlander joke. This time, it's not you. Yes, we're not going to have any spacecraft in this series named Juan Sanchez Villalobos Ramirez. Okay, what do the Midlands have in store for me? You mark the fact that the Midlands look pretty okay in whatever palatable aspect you find. I'm not even sure what that means. Is he trying to eat the Midlands? Because that would be... That's just weird. Okay, so, 4 minutes to our capture burn. Anything more to see? Oh, what a beautiful view that is. Look at the lens flare and everything. And we're just we're basically turning the solar panels towards it. And so I'm going to start transmitting the science, just in case. We can transmit this stuff 100%, not worry about it. Let's go for that. I don't think he's going to hit the moon, but you never know. Might as well transmit this stuff away. So you have to... I figured out that you need basically 100% of my electric charge on this if I want to transmit. You skimming over the surface here. Watching my time fade away. It's a bit like sitting on the dock of the bay, but watching the time warp fade away. Never mind. I'm not even going to try whistling. Okay, so line for my capture burn, 78.9 meters per second. But to be honest, it's pretty much a guess here. We're not super excited. We're not super precise here. Now, at this point, we're getting captured into orbit. We are safely there. We have collected science, and Dudebury Kerman is going to be the next great Kerbal hero. But I think it's time to bring an end to this episode, and we will be back, and I swear it will be next week. We're going to get back onto a weekly update. I promise you guys, I promise you. Until then, I'm Scott Manley. Fly safe.